Make sure that our classroom displays are valuable and add something to what we're doing. Bookwork. We've got the little sheets we put in the front. You should have the front of your books. Don't forget to move those over if you fill in a book. If you don't have one in a book, please get it. It's part of what we can say to the kids is that we value your work. You should value your work. This says something about you, something about your family, something about your teachers. It's value adding. It's a culture we want to try to develop. 3, handwriting. Handwriting is important. It's important the way you present your handwriting. I used to say there are 3 types of handwriting. Something that nobody will ever see on God's earth except you. I don't care what that looks like, but it's very rare. Then there's most of the stuff you hand in to me, stuff you hand to your parents, notes you write to another teacher, to a friend. Those things should be done really well. Then there's calligraphy, beautiful stuff you do for artwork, stuff you do for labeling a poster or a project of some sort. Most of it falls in that second category, but we want to emphasize it. There's a correct way to write. The actual cursive, and this website that we're signing up to has some nice cursive as well, examples. But a good, smooth flowing cursive is the most efficient way to write. And I've got a book that proves it, in case you don't believe me, but that's why we teach you cursive. It's not just to give you painful extra things to do, but it means that we need to value that as teachers, as a school, and encourage the kids, compliment them. One of the things that Mr. Escalante said is, you guys are good, or something like that towards the end. He said, you guys are, you can do it, you're a vet. He was encouraging. Yes, he gave them curry if they let him down or if they didn't do the right thing, but he also was building them up. That's part of the culture we want to have. I want to have it within your class. I want to have it within my campus, within my school. We have a lot of really good people in this room. I really believe that we say in our PowerPoint demonstrations to families, we have the best people. We don't start out with what were your grades in college. We ask with, why are you called to be a teacher? Tell us about your walk with Christ. So it makes the best people. High quality people value what they do. They realize that it doesn't depend on their pay packet. It doesn't depend on how many awards they've got. They understand what they're doing. And that's all part of the culture. And it can be as simple as, are you a good handwriter? And do you make excuses for yourself, or do you try to get better? So, classroom tone. And this, I've just really touched on that. What is the tone in your classroom? Yes, we're not going to allow disturbances. Yes, we're going to make sure that we have time on task. But it's all built out of relationship and then who's responsible. You know, you saw the assistant or whatever her name was there. You said, "Oh, we don't want these children to be disappointed. And it's your fault." And, you know, and she was a fairly negative person. Well, how do you handle a negative person in your class or in your staff or in your family, in your church? These are life skills. These are things that apply right across. If you pick up a good book on being a good person, well, it involves being a good teacher, being a good friend. So this all applies. So what is the tone? Are you thoughtful about it? I heard or was told, or somebody one time said that they try to make sure the first thing they say to somebody in the first 3 seconds is encouraging. And this can be a challenge. If it's the child who always shows up with nail polish, the wrong earring, the wrong shoes, you know, make it a personal challenge to make sure your first 3 seconds with that person is positive. I've told you this before. I used to have a game. I tried never to say no to somebody. "Mr. Avery, can I have a drink?" "Yes, in 5 minutes when we're finished this lesson." You know, he said to her, "I'm going to the toilet." "Yeah, hold on, 30 minutes. Well, be careful about that one. But you can make little games where you are encouraging people. I used to try not to say good boy or good girl. I used to say, "Well done." There are 100 ways you can say well done and say good boy or good girl. That has to do with your value before God. You're always a good boy. You're always a good girl. Now, don't keep yourself awake at night if you can. If you do that, but the point is, little challenges to create the tone in your class, in your campus, that you think is going to be this atmosphere of instructional benefit. The last one we're going to talk about was uniforms. One of the things we came away with from some of the schools we visited were high standard of uniforms, not only amongst the students, but amongst the staff. Now, this is our first day, see, we've all dressed down, but being mindful of What is the tone you want to set in your class? So what do you expect of your students? Are you one of the people who say, oh, I'm sorry, I just don't see nail polish. I just don't see earrings. I don't know what the rule is. I can't keep track. Find out. Ask somebody. Have a little buddy system. Say, look, I'll look at your class first thing in the morning. You look at my class, or if you see that, I never see so-and-so who always does X. Can you help me with that? This is that not being defensive thing, but working with each other. And if the CP walks in and says, did you notice that so-and-so's wearing those big dangly earrings again? You go, oh, rats, oh, thanks, oh, I'm having. Now, I try never to walk into a classroom and say things like, are you supposed to be in the classroom? Oh, Mr. Smith said we could. Well, he's wrong. You're not allowed to be in the classroom. Get out. I go, oh, Mr. Smith did. Okay, great. Hello, Mr. Smith. I just saw 3 boys in your classroom. They said you could be there. You told them they could be there. I never said that. Oh, well, I didn't think so. You want to go chase them out, or shall I? Or Mr. Smith says, oh, yeah, I just haven't finished up that work. Then I say, okay, hey, listen, remember? Insurance, one of our big duty cares, we're not allowed to leave students unsupervised in the class. If they break a leg, we go big time. Oh, yeah, all right, let's go chase them out. Speak to them privately about it. I never meet them out in front of the kids. So, we can have high standards and still be supportive and not have to be defensive with each other. So keep an eye on your kids' uniforms. They like to think that they have this standard. That's from esprit de corps. I don't know if that's French. Esprit de corps, it might be French. We have this standard that we all try to rise to. And I just ask you to I would like to ask you to think about that from the standpoint of yourselves as well. Now, it doesn't mean that that I think everybody's been dressing down. What it does mean is that we came right away from a couple of other schools we visited, and we go, wow. And maybe you can experience this. You've experienced this yourself. I often see, driving back and forth between campuses, teachers out on duty with out on excursions with their classes, and I like to see if I can pick the teacher apart from the parent helpers, or apart from whatever, often I can. The teacher just, I'll be extreme, dungarees, hat no different than the kids, and I think, you don't really inspire anybody in anything. We want teachers to be respected, and yet, there they are, just a teacher walking with their class. They just look like anybody else. And I would like to challenge you to look different. Set a standard, say, no, this is me. I find it difficult to show up and not wreck suits and ties and shirts with ink pens and so forth. My wife was often saying, what'd you get out of your suit? I said, oh, I don't know. I was carrying something for somebody or helping somebody with this. Maybe I went past the receptions and they were finger painting. My favorite story is I got home one day and they had food in this area for the camera. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought back to my day and I thought, oh yes, I'd stopped outside the reception class just at the end of lunch. They'd all come up to say hello. And then I looked over their heads and I said to the teacher, what do I do next? She said, tell them to get a drink. I said, everybody a drink. And they all disappeared again, and I didn't think anything about it until I got home. They'd all just been touching me, hello, Mr. Avery, hello, Mr. Avery. And there was little food bits. Oh, you just get this paper strike, no problem. But just that challenge, it's some stuff that we can do straight away. Have a think about it. Have a discussion about it. Flip over the page. One of the CPs put this list together for us, and I'm sorry if you which one did it, or I give him credit. Tips and ideas for delivering explicitly. Some of the stuff I've just referred to, read through, find your routine, find your pace, be expressive and creative, make connections to the students and their experiences, always provide extension. Keep trying if something doesn't work, keep an eye on the time, work out a way to manage I do, we do, you do, signs on the board perhaps. Watch for kids that go under the radar. Thorough planning is a must. What did you commit yourself to with the parents at your interviews for the primary teachers last term? Think about it now, because we're going to visit them again in term 3, and they're going to say, what about, and you're going to go, oh yeah, oh, that's a bad mistake. So thorough planning, start in with revision, have written instructions on the board, or for those kids who aren't good with that. Make connections throughout the day. When you're doing shapes, highlight the shapes, highlight the diagrams that you've learned and you see in writing. Have clear objectives and decide prior what it is you are looking for when you correct. Ask everyone, not just those with hands up. Use other students' work as examples in an encouraging way. Plow back and be reflective. Then I've given you the summarize 1 to 6 again, so that you keep it someplace. I think part of the culture we wanted to see develop, I'm hoping that you're getting an idea of what the culture is we want to develop, is we're all on the same page. We're all using some of the same language, not just in how we teach spelling, but how we develop the culture we've done. I've asked you already, if you haven't already done the survey, the staff survey, to do that, please. It looks at, do you think you've got a program for developing yourself? And there were some other things that we really want to get a handle on where we're at so we can improve. We want to improve. We're getting back some of the parent surveys. Interestingly, we've gotten almost more back now that we've given them a paper copy to fill out than we did when they could just go online and tick boxes. Some of them are very negative, some of them are very positive. I think we've allowed you to be anonymous, but if you want to put your name down, that's fine. Nobody's going to come after you and say, "What do you mean?" Here's somebody from A campus that says, "At X campus, we need a music teacher. Somebody must assess what that person is doing for our children very urgently." What? No name. So I've already discussed with that campus principal a technique for flushing the personnel. We'll talk about the qualifications for a music teacher, the fantastic things they're doing in an encouraging way, because it's true. Then if the person doesn't wake up, they might come and complain and say, "Hey, you know, you said that person's doing great stuff, but we think it's rubbish." "Oh, that was you, was it?" Well, point being, nobody's coming to come after you, but the survey is a chance to ask everybody, what do you think? Where are we at? It's an indication of where we want to go. Because if you look at that survey carefully, we'd like everybody to be able to pick 5. Then we'll think we've made some progress. And in the meantime, that's where we want to be headed. So if you haven't done that survey yet, or if you lost the email or whatever, ask your campus principal for another copy of it and fill it out so that I can use that, talk to the guys, and develop those areas that are of interest to us. Right, well, we're about ready to launch into term 2. And we've just begun. I can't believe we're at the end of finished term 1. And we're already a fourth of the way through another year. Because we've got these groups of children for just 3 more terms. Hopefully they're already in your heart. Hopefully the stuff you've seen today from Mr. Escalante, maybe you can develop an accent. It might help. Inspired you to drive in with the relationship you have with the kids. Every one of them comes with a story. Every one of them is a precious gift of God to this planet. We know there are lots of single parent families. I got a text this morning from a mother who is at one campus, who's remembering something that happened at that campus about 15 years ago, wants to know if I'm going to do something about it. I'm going, I didn't even know she would have known about it, but yeah, there's a connection. Try to follow up. She's one of the few people that has my mobile number and consistently texts me with these odd little requests. Well, I don't want to sweep under the carpet. You know, maybe there'll be things like that that you'll have in your class too. I hope you've been inspired to do a few hard things, to try to implement some of the stuff we're talking about. There'll be more, you'll hear more from us. Please be in touch with your campus principals. I need to finish everything conscious of the time. Everybody has a staff meeting this afternoon. And the Paradise people are going to stay here in their campus meeting. The Fulton people will stay here as well. Their meeting is going to be at about 2 o'clock. The Morpherville people, theirs is going to be at 2 o'clock. So we get back to the meeting. The Marion people, theirs is going to be at 3. One of the things you're going to be talking about today is CPs will ask you to have a bit of a discussion about an enterprise agreement, the current pay thing that we've under finishes October, November. Today's meeting is going to be just a chance to talk about it as a staff, about some of the things that you'd like to see incorporated into the next agreement. You can talk about anything you want. New uniforms for teachers, anything like that, you can bring that up. Computers for everybody, you know, one for home, one for school, one for the car, so you're going to be seen carrying back and forth, but like the kid in the movie. But things that are of interest to you, are concerned, you might just discuss those. Hopefully out of that, you'll also have a couple people that can represent you. We're hoping to have a little bit of a group meeting for each of the representatives. We'll probably do that week 5, when we have a combined staff meeting. Just for you to bring back some information from your staff and say, here are the things we're interested in. Are they going to be dealt with? We'll give a bit of feedback for you to take back to your group as well. So, and that's a fairly